Alright, second graders, so today for our math lesson, we are going to be learning about fractions. So, has anyone ever heard or looked at fractions before? So, what are fractions? Fractions are part of a whole. So, for example, if I was to draw a picture representing a common fraction, most of you would probably think of a pizza or maybe pie. And each of these, this is a whole pizza or a whole pie, but each of these is a piece of that pizza or pie. So when I say a fraction is a part of a whole, each of those is a part of that whole pizza. And that's an example. So looking at this apple, if I wanted to give another student half of this apple, could take my knife here and each of these is part of the whole apple. And I could give half of the apple away. And I have a half of an apple left. So what that fraction would look like would be 1/2. Because I gave 1/2 of the apple away. So the denominator, or the down, if you think denominator down, the number on the bottom tells us how many equal parts of the item we divided. So there was 2 parts of the apple. The top number, the numerator, tells us how many of those numbers are being referred to. So I gave 1/2 of the apple away. The apple was 2 parts. So if I was to take this chocolate bar and I was to divide it into 3 equal parts, and I was to take those 3 parts, that is called thirds. So if I was going to give 1/3 of my chocolate bar away, what would I have left? So I had 3 equal parts, so that is our denominator. I have 1 part of that I gave away, so that is 1/3, because there was 3 parts to make up the whole chocolate bar, and I gave 1 part away. So if we remember, the denominator, or the number on the bottom, so denominator down, tells us how many equal parts the item is divided into. The numerator, the number on the top, tells us how many parts are being referred to. So if I was to take this other chocolate bar that I have, and I was to divide it into 3 equal parts as well, let me get that out of the way here. And I was going to give 2 of those pieces away. How much of the chocolate bar has been taken? Yes, so 2/3. So how do we know that 2/3 of it has been taken? So if you were thinking something like we know 2/3 have been taken because there was 3 parts that made up that whole, and 2 of those are gone, so it leaves 1/3. That is exactly right. Good job. So let's remember, and who can tell me, what does the numerator tell us? So remember, the numerator is the number on the top. So if you were thinking the numerator tells us how many numbers are being referred to or given away or numbers taken, then that is absolutely right. So who can tell me what the denominator tells us? So the denominator exactly tells us how many parts are in that whole, and the denominator is the number that is down, right, on the bottom. So there is a few activities that I have prepared for you today in Google Classroom to help you with this activity. And you're going to access those by going on. So you're going to go onto your Google Classroom, which we use this all the time. And I want you to look at the activity to navigate blocks. This, I've already put the link in there, and you're going to use these instead of what we would use in class to work through these activities. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to go into the golf fractions game. This is going to help you really get familiar with looking at fractions such as, let me show you a few examples here. So if we were to look at picture models of, these are called area models of fraction, and I was to show you a square and ask you how many parts of the square, what would be the fraction be for the shaded parts of this square? So we would have 1/4, because there is one part of the whole square shaded in, and there are 4 parts of that whole. So the 4 is on the bottom and the 1 is on the top. And you may see all kinds of shapes in your activity. It may be, in class we used an apple and we used a chocolate bar. And you may look at some pictures of like the pie that we looked at. So if I was to show you a picture like this, how many parts of the whole do we have? What would be our fraction for this? I want you to write it on your whiteboards and show me when you're finished. Alright, very good. So a lot of you wrote 2/4. And 2/4 is fine. That is the same as 1/2. So right now, if you write 2/4, I'm not going to count that one. I understand that you know that 2 of these parts of the whole are shaded, and there are 4 equal parts. So maybe we look at a rectangle. So I was to show you a rectangle like this. how many of you can tell me what that fraction would be? I want you guys to write this on your whiteboard and then show me. You guys are doing very good. So, that is 3 parts that are shaded of the whole, which is 4 parts. You guys are doing very good with this. So who can tell me, before we get started in our Google Classrooms, you may go ahead and pull out your Chromebooks and go ahead and pull up Google Classroom. I'll give you guys a second to do so. So who can tell me what the denominator is again? We've talked about it a few times. So you use the denominator down. That's very good. So the denominator is the number on the bottom. And what does it tell us? So it tells us how many parts are in the whole, right? Very good. So who can tell me what the numerator tells us? Very good. So the numerator tells us how many parts we're giving away or are being taken. So how many parts are being referred to. So very good. So I want you guys to go ahead and open up the golf activity. And I want you to work through that until you're comfortable. And I'm going to come around the room and I'll be observing and helping. If you need help, I will be there to help you. Just raise your hand and I will come around and help you as soon as I can. And then when you're done with that, I will look at your score. So don't move on. Show me your score first. And then I will have you move on to our playground fraction activity. But I really want you guys to do the golf one first, just to help you get comfortable using these and being able to identify them in the different shapes. And I think you guys will really enjoy the activity.